My name is Antonio Smith. I run track in North Central High School. I run the 300 hurdles, can run the 400. I run 400 hurdles, 4x4. I'm just a sprinter. I'm really flexible with the events. And yeah, I'm a senior this year.
Okay. So tell
Awesome.
us about some of the accomplishments. Like we know what you run, and well, I mean, thanks for telling us what you run. But what accomplishments do you want to share with us?
4x4, indoor, state champ, 1 out of 4. 300 hurdles, fourth place at the state meet, and outdoor 4x4 state champ. Yeah, school record holder.
Yes,
Oh,
that's a
okay.
big deal. Yeah, you forgetting a big
Right. But
awesome.
and the one thing I will add, even though you don't acknowledge it, is this summer was your first summer running 400 hurdles. Yes.
Yes.
And the time you ran running those 400 hurdles, you won the state meet. Had you not injured yourself and ran the same exact time for the regional meet, you would have won that as well. And probably you would have placed the nationals with the same time for somebody who's never ran 400 hurdles. And I think that was quite impressive, which is why we were trying to get you on here, uh,
Yes.
because we don't like having talent hidden, especially in the same
Right.
city. So
Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And definitely
Appreciate
a great athlete to coach because you were all for it. Like, okay, let's try it. And so you're that coaches gravitate towards that as well. So your character exudes and how you are receptive to what coaches tell you. So we really appreciate that. So why don't Antonio, how did you get interested in track, let alone putting a barrier in front of yourself to jump over? Where did it all start?
it started my 8th grade year. So I always wanted to run track and I never got to it. I was convinced I was going to be a basketball player. So that didn't work out. So I decided that I wanted to run in 7th grade, but COVID happened. So I
Mhm.
didn't run. 8th grade comes around. It was also COVID, but I did go to this like speed camp somewhere. It was nothing serious. I thought I was getting better, getting faster. So I did that. And I was virtual 8th grade. So I didn't get to run 8th grade. So I was just waiting to run. Freshman year
Mhm.
comes around. I'm like, okay, this is my year. I'm going to run. So I didn't know anything about indoor track or anything. And my coach now, Robert Guiley, he was my teacher in 7th grade. So he tells me, yeah, I'm the coach of NC track, indoor, come out, condition with us. It's not guaranteed that you'll run indoor, but you can try. And I was like, sure. So I come out, practice, and that's how I started running. And I just never stopped. And as far as the hurdles, we had a pretty stacked team my freshman year, not necessarily with it was just stacked as far as a lot of people were on the team. So it was obviously seniors, it was upperclassmen. So I wasn't able to run what I wanted to run, which would be like, I didn't know what I wanted to run. I was pretty new to the sport. So I was like, I could run the 60. I didn't know. I just wanted to run.
Mhm.
So it was no spots for me in the 60 or the 200 or anything like that indoor. So I was like, he was like, we have 60 hurdles. And he was like, you look like you be a hurdler. I'm like, sure. I do hurdles. And I've been doing hurdles ever since. I kind of fell in love with it along with the sport. So yeah.
that is beyond impressive. Knowing that, wait, you only been running hurdles 3 years. You only been running track 3 years.
Yes.
Wow.
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 So
That's
you really
big.
don't know what you're capable of.
Right. Who just says, oh, the hurdle, 60-meter hurdle,
Yeah,
I'll run it. Like,
right.
It was
Yeah,
tragic at first. I will say that it was horrible, but we got there eventually.
yeah. But I mean, I'm just saying for you to be able to jump into like a 400 hurdle race and be cool with it, like in at year three, and this
yes.
is not even like you don't have that real track education in terms of like the pedigree for it. You know, it's
Right.
like I just started doing this because I wanted to do something.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
know?
That's big.
Yeah. So what would you say is like challenging for you when it comes to this? Since it's all new, is there anything like mentally challenging when it comes to this sport, or is it just I
Yes. I will say my easiest year was definitely my freshman year. And that was like as far as like I just had I definitely didn't have the most success that year. But it was just so free for me because I didn't really have the stress that came with track. I really didn't get nervous before races. I just went out there and ran because I didn't know, I didn't have anything to lose. And I wish I could stay like that and run like I don't have anything to lose. But I will say that mentally is definitely challenging just as far as like, I mean, you know, when you get better at the sport, I mean, now I have obviously school is watching me. So it's like, okay, I want to perform well because we only have this and we don't, it's not like basketball where we have a lot of games. We have really 8 something meets a year, you know? I mean, it's a lot of races, yeah, but it's just like, you have one time to, you know, get a time or whatever you're
Yeah.
trying to do, win, perform well. It's one chance. So it's definitely stressful as far as, or mentally tough as far as just what's at stake. It's really just like performing well. I'm really hard on myself and I really want to perform well. I try not to show it, but yeah, that's the mentally tough part. And then also with things you have going on in your life. So it's like when you're trying to run well, like you just have to make sure your head's clear.
So how do you, knowing that, individuals are watching you from coaches to other athletes who you're competing against, even with that stress, how do you mentally prepare for that along with, coupled with external things outside of track? How do you mentally focus or lock in?
Well, first I listen to music. So that kind of helps me clear my head. I also try to convince myself that I'm excited to be there. Like I try to convince myself that it's like I try to go back to when I first started running. I'm excited to be here. I've been waiting for this moment rather than I'm stressed out. Am I going to win? Am I going to lose? Am I going to perform well? So it's some of that along with my teammates. Like when I see some of my teammates who, you know, I'm kind of inspired by, I look at them and I'm like, dang, well, I see how they prepare for meets and how they don't let it get to them, or visibly from what I can see, it doesn't get to them. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe I should calm down. So for locking in, it's really just music along with just convincing myself that I'm excited to be there and this is something that I want to do.
Well, with that, say you prepared yourself, you're ready to perform, you have this great race plan in your mind. How do you handle when it doesn't go the way you anticipated? Like, how do you handle those disappointments? How you bounce back from that?
You kind of just got to take it how it is. I kind of just tell myself it is what it is. It's nothing you can do about it. I just take it back to practice and work on it. And I really fixate over little things, so it's easy for me to fix those things because I start working on it and working on it and working on it, and then another thing comes, and it's never ending. But I will say that I work really hard at those things, those little things. So yeah, as far as how I feel, I mean, I take it different ways. Sometimes, depending on the meet or whatever it is, I may be sad about it. I talk to my mom about it. She always picks me up and lets me know that it's not the end of the world. I have a lot of years that I'll be running, hopefully. So I definitely just try to, take it how it is and tell myself that you learn from mistakes and these things will happen and you'll just get better.
So you mentioned, picking yourself up, and it sounds like your mom has been an integral part of your athletic journey. So how has she kind of contributed to your success and focus?
Well, for one, I will say my mom, I hear her at every meet. So whenever I'm starting, whenever I'm in the blocks, anything, I'm always hearing her. So that helps. I know that she's there. So that's one. And two, she always works really hard to handle the things outside. Like she just tells me focus on what you need to do, focus on running, focus on school, and I'll handle everything else, as in her. So she makes sure, everything as far as college is handled. She makes sure that just everything. She makes my nutrition, obviously. She makes sure she's on me about that. She's just always been a big part of everything. As far as my circle, my dad, my siblings, they're always there at my meets. I always have a big support system, even when I don't perform well, like indoor state. I had 20 people out there just for me to get 20th place. So it's always, they're real. So
Yeah.
But you made it. You made it to state. And a lot of
yes.
people, so
And
that
it
says something
sounds,
for hearing you.
yeah,
Go ahead.
and it sounds like you've been, you've had those setbacks and you bounced back from them, which is good. How do you think this is like shaping your character though, in terms of the ups and downs, the setbacks when it comes to these different things?
Yeah, so I think that, so for one, I will say just the persistence. Like whenever, like I said, I get fixated on things, but whenever things don't go my way, it's helped shape my character just because I'm able to take things, like I said, just take it how it is and get better. That applies to everything that I do. So, and then just working hard at things. Like if I'm not good at something, I will be good at it if I put my mind to it. And I don't really, like, obviously I'm human. So I have those moments where I doubt myself and I'm like, oh, I can't do this. But I do have a support system that always knocks me back into the, like, I'm not really allowed to give up on things that are hard. So I kind of have that instilled in me. So whatever, I would say it's definitely taught me to work hard and not give up. I know that sounds cliche, but
No, not at all.
Yeah, coming from people who are really adulting.
Not at all. So, Antonio, how do you define success? You talked about like some setbacks. So, what's your outlook on this year and how you want to finish your senior year and be able to look back and say, job well done?
honestly, I do have goals that are very high, but I feel like I would be happy with my season if I know that I gave it all that I could as far as now, off season, the stuff that I'm doing now, and then the stuff that I'm doing when I am back in season, how I look at things, if I'm being grateful, everything, even my faith, just everything. It's not really about how I perform, it's about how hard I work to get there, if that makes sense. So obviously I do want to perform at a high level, but it's really about if I put the work in and if I'm happy with the work that I put in, I know that I am capable of putting in that work, then I just know that it'll get better from there in college. So I would definitely just say, if I worked as hard as I possibly could, because that's definitely the goal.
So you said you have some big goals. What exactly are those? It's okay to share with you.
It's
Sometimes they say
okay.
you gotta put them
You
out
gotta
there
put it
for,
out there.
so everybody knows what we going for, and we can all
Yes,
help keep
yes,
you focused.
yes,
So
yes,
So I want to win state in the 300
yes.
hurdles,
Mm,
the 4x4, obviously. I want to win state also in the 110 hurdles,
okay.
and I also want the state record in the 300 hurdles.
Yes. I love
dang,
it. I
And
love
60
those
meter hurdles
goals.
indoor will be nice, but I'm not really stressing about that. I feel like that's all like a building blocks up into, you know.
right.
I'm here
Yeah,
for
yeah.
Yeah.
it.
You can't complain about those. Now, what's life been like? Like you're in your senior year. I know it's academic stuff you have to deal with. How do you balance that world, athletics world, with the academics? How do you get those two in an even keel and deal with your social life?
I don't really have a specific way of dealing with it. It's really, I kind of just live and I don't, you know, but I will say this. I definitely, when it's time for academics, it's academics. And when it's
Mhm.
time for athletics, it's athletics. So I definitely keep them separated. And when it's time for one, I'm working on one as hard as I can. And when it's time for the other, I'm working on the other one as hard as I can. But as far as like all three tied into each other, I just balance it. I kind of just live. So like if something's going on and I know that I have a track responsibility, then obviously I'm gonna, choose that. Or academically, I'm gonna choose that. So it's really just about what's more important at that time. So, but academics always come first.
Great. I love it. Do you feel you've had to sacrifice anything as a track and field athlete?
That's a great question. Not really. I wouldn't say I really had to sacrifice anything. Maybe a little time, just as
Mhm.
like hanging out with friends, maybe like today. Like I could be hanging out, but I was doing weights for track. So, I mean, then I have schoolwork. So, I mean, I wouldn't really say I have to sacrifice much. That's just little things. You'll always have friends. So, I mean, I wouldn't really say anything serious, but I would say time.
Yeah. Well, you have to put in the time to get
Yeah,
anything out of it. You
right.
know, that's kind of a big thing. Now, when it comes to you in competition, what is it that how do you view people when view your competitors? Like when you get on the track, is it, oh, this is such and such I'm racing against, or is it they're racing against me? Like not that it's just that narrow, but I mean, just like how do you view competition, even though the competing itself? Like how does that fit for you in terms of your view?
Yeah, so it kind of fluctuates, honestly. I'd be lying if I said I'm just one of those people who I don't focus on anybody else but myself. I get on the track and I just do what I have to do because that's not the case. I definitely have those moments where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm racing against this person, or I see a time and I'm like, man, like, what am I going to do? But I try to get out of that. I have Coach Cheeseborough. He helps me get out of that all the time. He always tells me, like, what does that mean to me? Like, he's like, a time is a time. Like you have to get it at some point if you want to be great. So it's like, why not do it now? So
Yeah.
honestly, I would say I view the competition. So I'm friends with a lot of my competition actually, but when it's on the track, I really kind of I try to tell myself I don't like them honestly at that moment, just because I feel like that kind of helps me just
Yeah,
get a
we're
yeah.
not
It's like we're
friends.
not friends. We're on the track,
Until we cross, yeah, until we
so
cross.
I'm definitely just I'm just trying to kick their butt. That's what I would. That's the simplest terms I can put it in.
I mean, that works. That's fair. Now, if you could change anything about track and field, what would it be?
I would change. I mean, I guess I really can't change how much people pay attention to it, but I wish it were more widely broadcasted. I wish track and field athletes got more credit,
Yes.
because I feel like track athletes work really hard, just as hard, if not harder, than a lot of other athletes in different sports. And it's a very cruel sport. I feel like just like you kind of have to make your own way. It's not really as easy as I'm not trying to call any other sport easy, but I will say that just as far as being successful financially wise in track is really hard if you want to take it to the next level. So I would change that definitely. I would just say I wish track athletes got a little more respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Like
you know
just
that they're gonna do the Grand Slam track
yeah,
tournament.
that.
That's a start because you gotta
Yes.
you gotta
Right.
do some little ones in between there, and hopefully
Right.
that'll start to garner the attention that the sport deserves,
For sure.
especially in the States, because I don't know why. I mean, well, we have football, we have basketball, and so
Right.
track kind of they push
Mhm.
track to the side, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
yeah, so it's coming. It's come. By the time you're there, she'll be all
Yeah.
tuned up and
I
ready to
I
go.
hope so.
What's the you mentioned for some of your races and how you're kind of getting in tune, and Coach Ware asked you, you know, when you look at your competition or the competition, your friends, and you said that Coach Cheeseborough kind of gets you like, look, it's about the time you run. So what would you say is the best piece of advice one of your coaches has given you that you want to share out? And then shout out the coach too.
I put me in a weird spot. I would definitely say Coach Cheeseborough because I talk to him every day.
Hmm.
I talk to him the most, and obviously he's the hurdle coach. Um, well, I wouldn't really say it's any advice. I would just say he's one of the only people who aren't necessarily realistic with me, if that makes sense. And I know you need a balance
Hmm.
of that. So I would say, like when I told him, I came in his room and I'm like, I want the state record, and he told me you can do it. He said, why not you? Like you're fast enough to do it. You have the talent, so you just got to work for it. I would definitely say that. Or he said, why not you?
Yeah.
He said that to me last year, and that's what made me present to him the idea. So I would definitely say, Coach Cheeseborough, that's the advice. Why not you?
Yeah. I like that.
Well, I have one thing, one last thing. Now I do want to ask, and we ask most people this, is that when you're starting to compete at a high level, when you're getting up there, you're top in the state, everything else, how do you prevent injuries and keep yourself performing well?
Well, obviously, you can't predict the future and you can't make sure that you don't get injured. But for me, it's all about I stay prayed up, for one. Two, I trust in my coaches and I listen. So I do go above and beyond, but I definitely prioritize recovery and I definitely prioritize nutrition. I don't eat crazy in season, really outside of season. My parents just don't really buy, you know. We're an ingredient household, so I'm always eating home cooked meals. Also, I make sure that I do the things off in the off season like now to try to prevent injury and get those muscles and stuff stronger now so that when I get in season, I won't really have to worry about that.
Well, Antonio, we appreciate you coming on and sharing with us. We've been at this for a little while trying to get you on here, but I'm glad we finally got you. And then after you win that state championship, we'll have to have you back.
Absolutely. You want to share your social media pages so that we can all be on the lookout for how well you do this year?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at antonio.r.smith. And my ex is Antonio Smith with a whole bunch of numbers. So if you look at Antonio Smith, you should be able to find me. But yeah.
Well,
Cool.
thank you so much, Antonio, for coming and chatting with us so we could share you with the world for sure.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Have a go.